On your screen, you've been looking at the results trickling in from the Kibra by-election. In the lead at the moment is ODM's Bernard Okoth, followed by Jubilees' MacDonald Mariga, and in third place at the moment, ANC's Oloo. We'll be keeping a close eye, and we will bring you the very latest developments as and when we get them. You are watching NTV Tonight. Thanks for staying with us. My conversation in studio with my guests continues, and joining me tonight, Ruth Ambogo. She is a youth and a policy advisor. Beside her is Martin Oloo. He's a political analyst. And beside me, Joseph Semeka, also a political analyst. Earlier in this broadcast, my colleague Kennedy Mureithi had the opportunity to speak to members of the Jubilee Party at the Tallying Centre there in Woodley. Jubilee said that at the moment they are very proud of the results so far. They did acknowledge that ODM is currently in the lead, and they referred to the so-called Kibra bedroom, saying that we may not be in the bedroom at the moment, but we are certainly knocking on their door. What did you make, Ruth, of the attitude towards the outcome of the election so far by Jubilee?
Well, I'd like to actually applaud their attitude in the sense that you can clearly see that from their end, there really isn't going to be much if the race ends up, if the results end up not reflecting in their favor, but in the favor of ODM. So there's some willingness to concede, and there's some effort towards saying that, you know what, we tried our best and let this go. However, my biggest concern is that I feel that generally the kind of heat and energy and narratives that Jubilee created around this, there was a clear win in their minds, and they tried to sell this to the people. They did everything they could. They invested a lot of money in it. So for me, from a perspective of a citizen who was watching the amount of energy they invested in this particular race and how they portrayed the weakness of Raila Odinga and how they prophesied the end of Raila's political career, only to come and tell us that, okay, finally we are knocking at the bedroom door, is, to my view, a disappointment. And I think some of their followers have probably expressed that kind of disappointment. I think they really put up the hopes too high for the people. And in my view, I honestly believe that even the farthest that they have gotten was purely because of Ruto's effort and Ruto's investment in this particular campaign. Had we had Mariga himself going out to the ground, no offense, some of the unknown candidates who were, I mean, the rest of the 20 candidates, because so far we only know of the big four, ODM, Jubilee, Ford Kenya, and ANC. I can bet you if Mariga went on his own capacity as an individual trying to vie for elections in Kibra, he would probably feature in at around, number 10, there, going downwards. So clearly, this is Ruto being the man known to win everything that he puts his hand to, or rather that is the kind of picture he has sold to people, the kind of brand he has sold to people. In my view, this is a disappointment coming from him, and I honestly expected a lot more from them. From the kind of pomposity they put around this campaign, I thought that they would probably do much better. But in terms of measuring what kind of level of penetration they have had in Kibra, well done for them, kudos for them. We have to give credit where credit is due, because from the beginning, from the onset, we as political analysts sat and analyzed and said, Mariga himself cannot even present himself as a candidate who can speak before the people.
Right.
He does not have a proper grasp of what he wants to do for his people. So pretty much the manifesto, quote unquote, that was sold in Kibra by Mariga was basically what Ruto was saying he would do for the people of Kibra, which was also very unfortunate. So this was, from the Jubilee side of view, this clearly was a Ruto kind of election. It's almost as if they were voting for Ruto. And if the vote was between Raila and Ruto, if Kibra was a national election and the vote was between Raila and Ruto, then clearly the winner would definitely be Raila.
Let me bring in Joseph. The results show, of course, that ODM is in the lead, their candidate, Bernard Okoth. With the investment that Jubilee put into their candidate, are these results a surprise to you at all?
No, not a surprise at all. And I mean, we will say Jubilee because, yes, Mariga ran on the Jubilee party ticket. But observation, and these are things that have been in the public domain of how much Jubilee as a party invested in this, hardly anything. But, the sponsors of Mariga, the owners of the project, this is William Ruto and the others, they did invest a lot. I mean, and it was visible there again in the public domain. But this is not a surprise at all. Given a couple of things, but I just maybe mention 1, 2, 3. That one, it was said. I mean, Raila used this analogy, said that this is our bedroom, meaning that this is the ODM stronghold, or Raila Odinga's stronghold. He actually meant it, and even just a casual observer would know, who has observed Kenyan politics for the last like 2 decades or so, would actually agree that that is Raila's stronghold. I have worked with some of those people from Kibra in the ODM party and seen that if there are people who have unquestioning loyalty to the party and to the party leader, it's people from, especially young people from Kibra, men and women from Kibra. You are not about to shake that with not money, not the threat of violence, not even death. You do not. You don't shake that. So that Ruto and his people should have known. And then secondly, look at the person they chose, for God's sake, to as a candidate, as their candidate. You choose. I think you should choose a candidate who, could possibly win, all factors being the same, and if you did your best, could possibly win and know what he's there for. I mean, but this is a young man who didn't even seem to know what he's in this race for, other than to just say perhaps what he was being told, or to go where he's being told, and finally today to go into polling stations and take selfies and so on and so forth. You also got to take voters seriously and present to them a candidate who they look at and see, well, were it not that we are so loyal to this party, this young man looks like he could be a leader for us, maybe another time.
Yeah.
But look at the candidate they took, the people of Kibra. I don't think people of Kibra can actually say that. So as the young lady says, mostly what you see in terms of what they have received in the votes they have received, it's mainly because of the heavy investment they made, monetary investment, and that's basically what I mean, they made in that constituency during these campaigns.
All right, Martin, this essentially has been viewed as a contest between Ruto and Raila. So what does this early outcome, and perhaps it will be the end as well, the outcome at the end, what does it say about those two individuals, Raila Odinga and William Ruto?
A lot. It says a lot. Number one, that this handshake thing is real. Remember that Ruto is the biggest opponent of handshake, and handshake is Baba and President Uhuru. And they're serious about it. You saw that Uhuru did not step in Kibra. And therefore, this whole thing about Mariga being a Jubilee candidate is also not true. This is Ruto's candidate, and Ruto decided to give him the Jubilee colors to fly with them. Ruto said this was the candidate of the government. He was not. He said the others were in opposition. The second thing is that actually the shoe has changed. Raila, who always suffered, the challenges around the state and so on, seems to be now enjoying that.
Yeah.
And Ruto, who is actually inside government, seems to be crying while inside. So there are things, as somebody said, things change. And in this country, there's no better way to see the demonstration. And then also, there's something that we have seen in Kibra. Crowds do not vote. Otherwise, this election would have ended long time ago, because ODM had crowds, so did Jubilee have crowds, so did the ANC have crowds, and name calling and so on. Those things did not change. And therefore, people, when today came, when the 7th of November arrived, people woke up to go and vote, and that's what makes the difference. Lastly, we have learned that it's not about chest thumping, it's not about name calling, it's not about arrogance. Just like we saw in Uganda, where Aisha Jumwa, with all the pride and with all the arrogance, members of the society, citizens of this country, do not require people who take them for granted. So you can call yourself anything, you can shout whatever you want, but they want people to respect them. That's the lesson in Uganda, that's the lesson in Kibra.
Yeah. All right, Ruth, having heard those perspectives, and Jubilee having said that they are proud of the results, they also said that this is a rehearsal for 2022. So they are still exuding some form of confidence that they are going to come out tops in 2022.
Well, if this is a rehearsal for 2022, then they clearly have a picture of what 2022 will look like. Because even in a rehearsal, you don't go to a rehearsal giving yourself half of what you expect to deliver. during the actual performance. In fact, it is usually recommended that during a rehearsal, you put in your ultimate best so that by the time you're performing, you're just settled and doing it out of, And I would give an example of, for instance, Kipchoge's race. By the time he was setting himself up to run this Ineos, less than 2-hour marathon, he had practiced and rehearsed for it. And I kept telling my friends that there's no way Kipchoge would put himself up for such a challenge, knowing very well that the whole world would be watching, only to see him fail. So he must have probably tested and done so many rehearsals and realized that within 2 hours I can actually beat this. So it's not a tries-ex. So if this was a rehearsal for Jubilee, then clearly they know the outcome. And the outcome is that this particular election has proven to us new political alignments forming up, marriages breaking up. Remember, ODM had declared, NASA had declared and said that, look, by the end of this Kibra by-election, we as NASA, it's kwaheri, everybody goes their way. And even from Mudavadi's body language and tonal, his reactions towards how this election was going on, the kind of accusations he was throwing left, right, and center, the fact that they were NASA and they fielded a candidate as ANC and Ford Kenya should show you that, first of all, NASA as it stands is divorcing. And second of all, there are new alignments being formed. People who had sworn that, oh, Raila is the Lord of Poverty, were standing on podiums, dancing with him, swearing how they were going to work with him together. So if it is a rehearsal for 2022, then let Ruto and his camp know that, number one, new alignments have been made. And number two, if they maintain what they saw today, if this was the rehearsal, then the rehearsal has proven that, look, Central Kenya is joining forces with Raila. Eastern Kenya is joining forces with Raila. The people that have always stood with Raila for the longest time possible, Western region, Nyanza region, Coastal region, are intact. And now, who is Ruto left with? Who is Ruto left with? That is the rehearsal. And the rehearsal is that Tanga Tanga is clearly the new opposition in 2022 in waiting.